With the last form fitting level and parallel to the outside perimeter, we lock it in place on the corners. This completes the formwork for the concrete pour of our footing. With all the form timbers in their final position, I go around the entire perimeter with my rake, making sure the gravel's at the correct height.
You come and go like a monsoon rain. You hide and show like a lightning bolt. You have it all.
Join me in my latest video series as I take you through the steps of how I built this backyard studio. Let's take a look inside. We just finished the principal carpentry on the interior. It's ready for a bit of a clean up, and the clients are going to be doing a bit more painting in here to finish it off. It's a 4 by 6 metre space with 2 doorways, 3 windows, and an overhanging awning on the side. It's a timber frame construction clad in cement sheet with battens covering the seams. It also has a couple of architectural features to give it a slightly Japanese feel, like these extra battens on this wall, the hardwood battening to create the privacy screen. We finished all the primary construction this week, so I'm just going around doing the final check off, like removing the protective coating of these windows. Join me in the next video series and I'll show you all the tips and tricks of how I constructed this backyard studio.
The plan was to create a building that was going to be used as an art studio. My client wanted a comfortable place to carry out her painting in year-round weather conditions. So we incorporated some passive house design features to help keep it warm in winter and cool in summer. By orientating the large double-glazed windows to the north, we can allow the low winter sun to enter the building and warm it naturally. And during the summer months, the extended eave creates a shadow over the windows to help keep it cool inside. The south and west sides of the building are eaveless to help create a mid-century modern architectural look. And the east side of the building has an extended 2.5 metre awning overhang to create an entertainment space. The walls and roof have been constructed with an air cavity batten system and exterior insulation sheeting to help keep it comfortable in all seasons.
I go red when you're sitting nearby. I'm like a young child. Oh, it's silly how time just flies when we play and you hide. You come and go like a monsoon rain. You hide and show like a lightning bolt. You have it all.
Before we start any construction for our studio, we needed to make some extensive preparations on the job site. The studio footprint sits on the top of a grass-covered hill in this backyard, so I needed to create an access driveway to be able to bring in all the tools and materials we'll be needing for the project. My first step was to remove the concrete floor of the old shed that had been demolished. Sometimes the concrete can be left in place and the new concrete foundation poured over the top of it. But in this case, the concrete is of a substandard quality and there's no reinforcement mesh inside it, so it has to be removed. It breaks up easily using a large jackhammer like this. My technique is to place the tip of the jackhammer close to the broken edge and work my way across the slab in small rows. A large jackhammer like this is an awkward tool to operate, so part of my technique is to keep it close to my body so the center of gravity is next to my shoulders. This way I can let the weight of the jackhammer do the work. You can see here how I started on the outer edge of the slab and work my way across and backwards, always placing the jackhammer tip close to the cracked edge. The other reason I want the concrete broken into small pieces is I plan to use it as a road base for my access driveway. As I get into the rhythm of this process, the slab is breaking up quite easily. It's more financially practical for me to rent specialised tools like this as I need them. So in this case, I've rented this jackhammer for the day, and my goal is to complete the breaking up of this slab by the end of the day.
9 to 5 was my dad's advice. Don't think twice, I want the luxury life. My beauty can lose it, I'll use it. I'll take what I want. Oh yeah. Spending your Sunday at the gym trying to fit. Counting the days until I meet my future husband. I try to be kind to myself. I said, girl, you got this. A whole lot of ticking, not enough time, not enough time.
To create the gravel driveway, I'm going to have to install some drainage to deal with the swampy ground we have at the bottom of the hill here. We're digging trenches to install ag pipe to help channel the water away from the bottom of the driveway. It seems to have a natural spring running underneath it. I'm using a combination of rigid and flexible slotted ag drain pipe. The idea is to create an underground triangle-shaped grid that can catch all the water and redirect it into the gutter at the bottom of the driveway.
It's a whole lot of ticking, not enough time.
With our drainage in place, we start adding the concrete I broke up earlier as a foundation and base for the gravel that we'll be adding on top later. I'm getting the driveway gravel delivered in 3.5 square metre loads. This way we can complete a section of the driveway so the truck can drive higher up the hill for the next load.
9 to 5 was my dad's advice. Don't think twice, I want the luxury life. My beauty can lose it, I'll use it. I'll take what I want. Oh yeah. A whole lot of ticking, not enough time. A whole lot of work for a trophy wife like me. Oh. Slow traffic cause me stress. Show no panic, I'm just born in a dress. And I know now I'm older, I'm done. I'll do what I want. I'll do what I want. Spending your Sunday at the gym trying to fit in. Counting the days until I meet my future husband. I try to be kind to myself. I said, girl, you got this. A whole lot of ticking, not enough time, not enough time.
With the lower half of the driveway complete and the next section with its base rock in place, I get another 3.5 metres of gravel delivered. At this time he can back the truck further up the driveway and dump it closer to where it'll be needed for us to finish this part of the project. All this concrete and gravel will be removed later with an excavator, as my client has plans to construct an extensive garden with landscaping after the construction of the studio is complete. The driveway just needs to hold up for a couple of months whilst our materials are delivered on site. The remaining concrete rubble from the broken up slab is going to be used to create a small retaining wall to extend the flat area around the edge of our building footprint. It's important to have a flat and stable area around the construction site for navigating materials, placing ladders, and not having any trip hazards as we carry out our construction.
But I don't have to be chasing every dream that I have. Oh, no. 'Cause the thing is, I've got more love here than I can bear. Ooh. Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it
spread out the final load of gravel at the top of the driveway and around our building site in preparation for us building the formwork for our footing foundation. The first key step in our construction phase will be building the concrete footing that's going to hold up the studio. It's a 200 by 500 reinforced concrete frame that'll support the entire structure. We'll be pouring our slab for the floor over the top of this in a later phase. To create the form for the concrete footing, we'll be using 190mm wide planking that'll recycle into the timber structure later. We start this process by checking which of our 190 by 45 planks are the straightest, and then start measuring them out for the cutting process. I start this process by trimming the end of the stock planking to make sure I've got a true 90-degree cut. I use a piece of scrap plywood to prop the plank up to make sure it's sitting completely flat on the saw for the cut. Later on in the project, I'll be constructing a proper saw bench for convenience, but for now we'll make do cutting our formwork on the ground.
I've seen many places where the beauty never ends. Different cities, friendly phrases, and perhaps I'm going back. But I don't have to be chasing everything that I have. Oh.
To assemble the outer perimeter of our foundation, we're using some scrap timbers to create a flat surface to join the corners together. We lay out the formwork timbers in their approximate position and start the process of connecting the corners together. Here you can see me checking with my set square to make sure that when I connect them together with the screws, it's in a true 90-degree position. After the first corner is secured in place, we continue to join the other two pieces together, double checking that our corners are all at 90 degrees. I'm using heavy timber screws and pre-drilling my holes, as the formwork will need to come apart later. And pre-drilling the holes will make the screws come out more easily when we do the form rip out. When the form footing is fully assembled, we slide it into position in reference to the fence line. I'm leaving a 1 metre space between the fence and our structure, which is a standard fire code in our area. The delivery truck is making good use of the track we built as we unload all the framing we'll be needing for the project.
So yesterday we finished laying out our footing for the first concrete pour. This is going to sit underneath the final slab, which creates the floor for the building. We had to align the whole thing in relationship to the existing house and obviously get it level. Instead of using a laser level for this part of the process, I'm using a system I learned off bricklayers in my youth, which is to just use a transparent plastic tube full of water and attach it to some uprights on your structure. And you use the water level to measure down. When you make them both the same measurement, then your formwork's completely flat. So if we take a measurement from the top of our formwork to where the water's settled, in this case it's 1295. And if we go over here, we can take another measurement. And it's 1295. Because the level of the water will always stay exactly perfect to gravity.
The next step in building the footing for our foundation is to install the inside perimeter. I'll be using timber dimensions of 90 by 45 instead of the 190 planking we used for the outside of the form. This is to make it easier later on when we have to rip out the form when the concrete's set. I'm cutting all my timbers with a 30-degree angle cut. This is an essential part of how the timber will be able to be pulled apart on the inside perimeter of the form. If I use the normal 90-degree cut, the timbers get wedged inside the concrete. It makes it much harder to pull the formwork out later. So that's why I'm doing 30-degree cuts on the timbers that lie on the inside of the form structure. I lay out all the cut pieces on the ground for assembly, using small pieces of 190 planking to hold them together. Once they're assembled, I trim them to length and add small pieces of 90 by 45 to help attach the inside corners together. I repeat this process for the rest of the forms and assemble them parallel to the outside perimeter form.
'Cause the thing is, I've got more love here than I can bear. Of all the magic places in the world I've been to, this is where my heart is. Oh, you know it's true. No matter where I go, I'm coming home to you. Been walking down the street so many times, my feet know every brick and stone. Could wear a blindfold. No matter what I do, I'm coming home to you.
In fitting the last piece of formwork in place, we've run into a slight problem, with an old piece of tree stump getting in the way of us placing the board in the correct position. I mark out the place where we'll need to make a cut to make this form fit flat on the ground. I decided it was easier to make a notch in our form timber than to dig the stump out. With the last form fitting level and parallel to the outside perimeter, we lock it in place on the corners. This completes the formwork for the concrete pour of our footing. With all the form timbers in their final position, I go around the entire perimeter with my rake, making sure the gravel's at the correct height. The 50mm gravel bed that lies under the concrete footing is an essential part of creating a stable platform for the concrete to sit on. Another important part of the preparation of our foundation is to install an electric conduit from underground up through the foundation, so the electrician can connect the electricity up through the wall of our structure later. I'm using a combination of my post hole digger and wrecking bar to dig a hole 400mm deep, as that's part of the building code in my area for underground electrical connections. After I've excavated the hole to what I think is deep enough, I double check with my tape measure to make sure it's a full 400mm deep. Then widen the hole so the bend in our conduit will be able to fit comfortably outside the exterior plane of our wall. I double check the depth one last time, then cut the pieces of my electric conduit and test fit them in the hole. I glue all the conduit parts together, tape up both ends so no dirt will get in, and secure the whole system in place with a wooden block.
Back up the drive a bit, could you see what this is? This is a part of it all. Over and over, injustice to injury, this is a part of it all. Could you hike back to it, fight with it, sit with it? This is a part of it all. Ask around, be aware, make peace with what is there.
I'm temporarily removing the bracing blocks we installed to keep the formwork parallel, in preparation for installing the plastic that will be lying underneath the concrete. The plastic concrete underlay comes on a large roll. I purchased a 7-metre piece of it to fit the length of our footing, then folded it into a manageable size so I'd be able to cut off appropriate size slices for our footings on the job site. Once I've made the appropriate cut matching the width of our footing, I'm able to unfold the plastic the opposite way I folded it up at the supplier. This is an easy way to manage the large plastic pieces necessary for our damp course installation. When the plastic's in place, I staple it along the edge of the outside of our form to keep it secure during the concrete pouring process. Adding a membrane between the gravel and the bottom of the concrete will stop any groundwater penetrating the foundation and floor for the life of the building.
There's no use in trying, and even if you could, it wouldn't come like it should. This stubborn kudzu just covers these words. Could you listen to somebody else? Will you only drink from the thoughts of yourself? Are you under the canopy spell? You dig in your heels and spread the disease. You're spreading the disease.
I took extra care to create a tight seal around the electric conduit that penetrates the membrane. Join me in the next episode as we complete all the concrete, footing and floor elements for our backyard studio.
Could you hike back to it, fight with it, sit with it?